The story and career of Nick Foles is one of the most fascinating in NFL history. The third-round draft pick in 2012 and Super Bowl 52 MVP has had an up-and-down career. Perhaps his best years in the NFL came under the notorious leadership of one Charles Edward Kelly, otherwise known as Chip Kelly, in the 2013 and 2014 regular seasons. In the middle of the 2014 season, Foles got hurt and perhaps changed the course of NFL history. I'm here to ask, what if Nick Foles never got hurt at the end of that season? Let's take a look.
We should try a chicken tender. They're
In that 2014 season, the Eagles got off to a hot start and started the year 6-2 under Foles. But in that sixth win, Nick Foles broke his collarbone and was ruled out for the rest of the season. In came Mark Sanchez. The first few games under Sanchez went very well for Philly as they continued their impressive run under Kelly and blew out the Cowboys on Thanksgiving to extend their lead over the division to 9-3. The Eagles lost the next 3 games with Sanchez mainly to blame. With Foles under center, the Eagles win 2 more games with wins against the Redskins and the Cowboys, and they finish with a 12-4 record. The Cowboys fall out of the playoffs as the Lions still grab the 6th seed. So let's take a look at the updated NFC playoff picture. Seattle is the 1 seed with Green Bay as the 2 seed. They have the byes. At the 3 seed is the Philadelphia Eagles with the Panthers at the 4 seed, and the 2 wild card teams being the Cardinals and the Lions. As Dallas, Arizona, and Detroit all have the same record, the Cardinals win the tiebreaker over both of them as they beat both of them in the regular season. Detroit wins the tiebreaker over Dallas as they have the better conference record. As for the AFC, well, the playoffs remain the same. In the wild card, the Cardinals still lose to the Panthers. The Eagles now beat Detroit as they have home field advantage. In addition, Shady McCoy would follow up a dominant performance against Detroit from a year prior with another 120-plus yard game, in what would sadly wind up as his last game in Philly, but we'll get to that a little later. In the divisional round, Green Bay beats Philly instead of Dallas. The Dez no-catch never happens. The Packers had a very good team this year, and it is just hard to picture them losing. Seattle beats Carolina just like in real life. In the conference championship, Seattle still knocks off Green Bay in a thriller. This means the Super Bowl stays the same, the Seahawks play the Patriots, and Russell Wilson still throws it at the 2-yard line to Malcolm Butler, and the Patriots remain Super Bowl 49 champions. As for the 2015 offseason, it's one of the most hated by Eagles fans in their history. This is where Chip Kelly decided to trade Foles for Sam Bradford, trade Shady McCoy for Kiko Alonso, and let Jeremy Maclin walk in free agency, as well as signing DeMarco Murray. Chip Kelly still gains power from Jeffrey Lurie in this situation, trades McCoy, and sign Murray. In addition, they still let Maclin walk and need a receiver. However, the Bradford trade never happens as Foles stays and he's able to remain healthy. There is no drama with Kelly possibly wanting to draft his former college quarterback, Marcus Mariota. That takes us to the 2015 NFL Draft. The Bucs and Titans still grab Winston and Mariota respectively, and much of the draft stays the same until around pick 20. The Cowboys land Shane Ray, the Steelers now get Nelson Aguilar, and the Broncos get Bud Dupree. The Eagles for some reason decide to take Devin Funchess, and now Byron Jones ends up in Green Bay with the Packers. This means Demarius Randall goes to the Saints. As for all the other changes, they're very minor and it really doesn't affect the league in the future, so there's no need to really cover it. And to the 2015-2016 season.
2015?
Because the Eagles are the 1 seed, they no longer play the Lions and Cardinals. They now play the Packers and Seahawks, who both had disappointing setback years. Now the Cowboys face off against the Lions and Cardinals in this timeline. Now it's time to look at some major changes for the season. Without Sam Bradford, Nick Foles and the Eagles are able to defeat the Atlanta Falcons in Week 1, as this was a close game in real life. Additionally, in Week 10 against the Miami Dolphins, the Eagles jump out to a quick 16-3 lead. Unlike in our timeline where Sam Bradford got hurt and the Eagles blew the game, Foles does not pull Bradford and get injured. Instead, the Eagles are able to pull away and win the game. This is huge for their momentum. Instead of the next 2 weeks being blowouts for the Eagles, they are able to keep things close. With the extra wins against the Dolphins and Falcons, the Eagles finished the year 9-7, but they lose the division tiebreaker to the Redskins as they lost them twice in the regular season. At this point, Eagles fans are really impatient. They're calling for Chip Kelly's job, and they have a lot of bad decisions to make in free agency, primarily with Nick Foles, who is no longer under contract. But meanwhile, in St. Louis, Sam Bradford enters a true make-or-break year as he finally takes his first game action since halfway through the 2013 season. As Foles struggled to fit into Jeff Fisher's offense and Bradford had experience in it, Bradford will play better than Foles did. The Rams steal a few games with wins against the Steelers and Ravens, along with an explosive back, Todd Gurley, breaking out. When Bradford goes out for a few games due to injury, young Case Keenum plays efficiently, starting a quarterback controversy. The Rams finish 9-7, their first winning season since 2003, and extend Bradford for 2 more years. Nothing changes in the NFC for the playoffs, as Carolina still advances to Super Bowl 50. As for the AFC, Denver is the 1 seed, New England is the 2 seed, Cincinnati is the 3 seed, Houston is the 4 seed, Kansas City is the 5 seed, and the Jets are the 6 seed. A Rams win over the Steelers puts the Jets in the playoffs over Pittsburgh. That means the Ryan Fitzpatrick-led Jets take on Cincinnati Bengals, led by backup quarterback A.J. McCarron, as Andy Dalton was hurt in real life. Quite the quarterback matchup. The fortunes of the Bengals' wildcard misery finally turn around, briefly, and they move on to New England. The first matchup of the divisional round was the Cincinnati Bengals and New England Patriots. The Bengals would give it everything they had, but with Giovanni Bernard still getting injured late in the wildcard game, the Patriots get the best of McCarron, despite heroic efforts by players like A.J. Green and beloved linebacker Vontaze Burfict. The next day, the extremely hot Kansas City Chiefs played Peyton Manning on his last legs and the no-fly zone Denver Broncos defense. The Broncos took a big early lead in the fourth quarter with a C.J. Anderson touchdown. However, the Chiefs stormed back behind big catches by Jason Avant and Jeremy Maclin. Eagles fans everywhere cry. However, despite these efforts, there's barely any time left on the clock due to Andy Reid mishandling it. In the conference championship, the Broncos survived the Patriots and advanced to the Super Bowl, just like in real life. Von Miller still wills the Broncos to a Super Bowl win over the Panthers, as Cam doesn't dive to the football. In the 2016 NFL free agency, this is where things get very weird and very ugly very fast. Chip Kelly has to make the team in his image and prove he can win. However, he does not have a quarterback under contract. In an act of desperation, he franchise tags Nick Foles. There are a lot of rumors about Kelly wanting to trade up for California quarterback Jared Goff. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., the Redskins see their division rival mishandling their quarterback spot, and they lock up Kirk Cousins on a 4-year, $84 million contract. They still sign Josh Norman to a big contract, and the Giants also spend big in free agency. The Eagles still trade DeMarco Murray to the Titans, and the Jets now sign Ryan Fitzpatrick to a terrible contract. 3 years, $45 million, as Ryan Fitzpatrick led the Jets to the playoffs. The 2016 NFL Draft is really where things begin to get interesting. The Niners trade up with Tennessee, as the Titans believe Mariota is their guy. The 49ers part ways with this year's first and next year's first, and a 4th-round pick. The Rams no longer trade up, as they just extended Sam Bradford.
With the first pick in the 2016 NFL Draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Jared Goff, quarterback, California.
The 49ers take Jared Goff. The Browns never trade out with the Eagles, as they never get that unreal trade offer because the Eagles extend Nick Foles with the franchise tag.
With the second pick in the 2016 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select Carson Wentz.
As there was no QB on the roster that the Browns believed would be their franchise guy, they go Wentz. As for the Ravens, they move ahead of the Jags to pick 5 as they lost an extra game, but they still select Ronnie Stanley as the O-line is still too big of a need, and the Jags still get Jalen Ramsey. The Giants select Leonard Floyd at pick 8, and the Bears trade up with the Bucs from pick 11 to pick 9, and they take DeForest Buckner. At pick 11, the Buccaneers are stuck with Eli Apple. All the other changes are very minor until pick 19 when the Rams are on the clock. They select Corey Coleman. The rest of the draft stays mostly the same with some non-impact guys landing in different places. Fast forward to 8 days before the NFL regular season. Vikings quarterback Teddy Bridgewater went down in practice to a devastating knee injury and is out for at least a year. The Vikings now looked around the league to trade for a quarterback. They trade a second and a fourth for Bengals backup AJ McCarron, as he just won the Bengals their first playoff game since 1990. The Bengals still rolled with Andy Dalton, but AJ McCarron sparked interest from the Vikings. Bradford doesn't get traded as he is with the Rams and not the Eagles. We begin the 2016-2017 NFL season with the 49ers. Blaine Gabbert starts the first 6 weeks of the season. Sitting at 1-5 and looking for a change, Norv Turner puts in Colin Kaepernick. Kaepernick goes 0-4, and the Niners are 1-9. And in Week 12, Jared Goff makes his first NFL start. Goff beats the Jets in Week 14, and the Niners improve and win one more game than they do in real life. They go 3-13. Norv Turner and the Niners mutually part ways at the end of the season, as Norv Turner has had enough there after spending one season with the Niners. That's right, the 49ers never bringing Chip Kelly. He's still in Philadelphia. As for the aforementioned Vikings, they lose to the Packers in Week 2, and they finish the season 7-9 instead of a real-life 8-8 with AJ McCarron at quarterback. The Cleveland Browns, who now have Carson Wentz at quarterback, they win 4 more games than they do in real life. They beat the Dolphins, the Jets, the Titans, and the Steelers, as these were all really close games in real life, and the Steelers are playing with their backups. Cleveland finishes the year 5-11. The Eagles, without Wentz and without Jim Schwartz, lose an extra game to the New York Giants with Nick Foles at quarterback. They finish the year at 6-10. The LA Rams still get off to a hot start at 3-1, but after falling 4-6 and very little points scored, the Rams bench Bradford for Keenum. Keenum plays, well, mediocre. Jeff Fisher gets fired, and Bradford is back in the lineup for the final few games, and the quarterback search begins for the Rams. As for the 2016-2017 playoffs, they stay the same, and the Falcons still blow a 28-3 lead to the Patriots in Super Bowl 51. In the offseason, the Eagles now fired Chip Kelly, and Doug Peterson is still hired, and he brings in Jim Schwartz. The Vikings still bring in Pat Shurmur, and the Rams still hire McVay. Now, the Vikings sign Foles to compete with AJ McCarron and an unhealthy Bridgewater, and they have some quarterback competition going on in Minnesota. This takes us to the 2017 NFL Draft. Since the Browns won 4 more games, they no longer have the 1 pick. The Bears and the Niners are tied at 3-13 for the 1 pick. It comes down to strength of schedule for the tiebreaker, and since the 49ers have the easiest schedule in the league, they land the 1 pick. However, since they traded their first round pick the year prior to get Jared Goff, the Titans now have the 1 pick.
With the first pick in the 2017 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select Myles Garrett, defensive end, Texas A&M.
The Bears are now picking at 2, and they select Mitchell Trubisky, but they no longer have to trade up to get him. As for the Rams, they're in need of a quarterback as they give up on Bradford.
With the 4th pick in the 2017 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Rams select Deshaun Watson.
Since they still have their first round pick because they never traded up for Goff, they select Deshaun Watson at pick 4 as he is at the time a safer prospect than Mahomes. As for the Jets, they're picking at 5 and they select Solomon Thomas as he is still available. That means no Jamal Adams in New York. The Browns are picking at 6 and they are able to help out Wentz and take Corey Davis. As for the Chargers, they select Jamal Adams now. The Bengals take Mike Williams as he is the best receiver on the board. The Eagles trade the 12th pick and the 2017 third rounder and their 2018 fourth rounder to the Bills for the 10th pick. And that means,
with the 10th pick in the 2017 NFL Draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select Patrick Mahomes II.
The Eagles select Patrick Mahomes. So he's no longer playing in Kansas City with Andy Reid, and instead, he is spending his time in Philly with Doug Peterson. At the 12th pick, the Bills take John Ross. The The Texans are picking at 25, and as they're searching for a quarterback, they select Deshaun Kaiser, hoping for him to fill the shoes of Deshaun Watson. Spoiler alert, he doesn't. Chiefs fans, I know you lost Patrick Mahomes, but hey, at least you guys get TJ Watt at pick 27. As for the Cowboys, without Byron Jones, they select Tre'Davious White. The Browns take Jabril Peppers, but now at 29 instead of David Njoku. The Steelers take Taco Charlton at 30 after missing out on TJ Watt, and David Njoku goes to the Rams in the second round, and Gerald Everett goes to the Bears. Adam Shaheen just never amounts to anything in the NFL with his team. In the 2017-2018 season, we see some really major changes in the regular season. Let's start off in Houston, where Deshaun Watson originally tore his ACL 7 games into the season, and they finished 4-12. Now with Kaiser, he plays better than he did in Cleveland as he has weapons like DeAndre Hopkins, however, not nearly as well as Watson does. Houston still goes 4-12, but importantly, they win against Indy and not Cleveland. In Cleveland, Wentz has a breakout year and nearly single-handedly carries the Browns to a whopping 7 wins and more importantly, shakes up the AFC playoff picture. The Browns knock off the Steelers twice, the Colts, the Jets, the Texans, Titans, and Packers. That means 0-16 never happens for the city of Cleveland. As for the Colts, they're real bad. They lose 3 more games than they do in real life. They lose twice to the Texans, and they lose once to the Browns. Sorry, Jacoby, but hey, you get the first pick in the draft. Moving on to the Jets, well, they're one of the biggest losers until now in this scenario. They signed Ryan Fitzpatrick to a 3-year, $45 million contract in 2016, which is real bad considering he regressed from Fitzmagic to Fitzception in this time. However, good news for you Jet fans. At the deadline, the Patriots are still looking to trade Jimmy Garoppolo, but since the 49ers already have their franchise quarterback in Jared Goff, they don't make a move for him. Instead, with an aging Ryan Fitzpatrick playing at a pretty low level, the Jets make a move and they trade a second-round pick to New England for Jimmy Garoppolo at the trade deadline. They beat the Broncos and Chargers with Garoppolo and they finish 7-9. Now you may be thinking it's a little crazy for the Patriots to trade a quarterback to a division rival, but they think a second-round pick for a guy who only played a small amount of games is too much for them to pass up, so they decide to pull the trigger. In the NFC, the Rams now have Deshaun Watson instead of Jared Goff. They start off hot with a 6-1 record and everything is going great. They beat the Redskins, unlike in real life. That is until Watson gets hurt and the Rams' dreams die. The Rams go 8-8 and they lose to the Saints, Titans, and Cardinals. As for the 49ers, they start off 3-6, but finish 9-7 with extra wins against the Seahawks, Cardinals, and Redskins. As for the Eagles, they go in 11-5 instead of 13-3. They lose to the Giants and Panthers respectively. This takes us to the playoffs. In the NFC, the Vikings are the 1 seed, Saints are the 2 seed, Eagles are the 3 seed, Seahawks are the 4 seed, Panthers at 5, and Falcons at 6. As for the AFC, that remains the same and the Patriots still advance to the Super Bowl. In Wildcard Weekend in the NFC, the Eagles beat the Falcons just like they did in real life, and the Panthers knock off the Seahawks. In the divisional round, the Vikings defeat the Panthers, but the Saints defeat the Eagles. In the conference championship, just like in real life, the Vikings beat the Saints, and in this timeline, they become the first team to ever play a Super Bowl at home. In Super Bowl 52, the Vikings play the Patriots in Minnesota. Nick Foles still beats Tom Brady, but this time he does it in a Vikings jersey. The Minnesota home crowd in a Super Bowl is just too much for the Patriots to overcome. Enter the 2018 NFL Draft. Lots of changes here, so stay with me. The Colts are now picking at 1, but since the Broncos never signed Case Keenum in the offseason, as he never goes 13-3 with the Vikings, they trade up with the Colts by offering their first-round pick and 2 second-round picks.
With the first pick in the 2018 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select Baker Mayfield. Wow.
The Giants still land Saquon Barkley at 2. And since the Texans still have their first pick, as they never trade up for Deshaun Watson, they select quarterback Sam Darnold out of USC. The Colts still get Quentin Nelson, but this time at 4. As for the Bills, they still get Allen, and the Cardinals still get Rosen. Bradley Chubb falls all the way to the Bears. That's right, Khalil Mack and Bradley Chubb are the Bears' pass rush, and they put the league on notice for the years to come. Denzel Ward falls all the way down to the Bucs, and they get the secondary help they desperately need. The Browns then draft Vita Vea. With the Chiefs picking at 22, since they no longer have Mahomes and they have Alex Smith as their quarterback, who is getting up there in age, they select Lamar Jackson, and the Ravens never trade back into the first round. Those are all the major changes for the draft. That takes us to the 2018-2019 NFL season. Alex Smith starts the year quarterback for the Chiefs, and the Chiefs lose to the Chargers and Broncos. They finish the year 10-6 as they never have the magic that Mahomes had. The Chargers still go 12-4 and they're the 1 seed, but with a win against Kansas City and a loss to the Niners. As for the Browns, they knock off the Steelers and Saints, as if they had kickers, they would have won both those games. Now, it doesn't come down to game-winning field goals, as they have Carson Wentz as their quarterback. The Browns, however, they lose to the Panthers. They finish the year 9-7. As for the Steelers, since they lost to the Browns in Week 1, they finished the year 8-8. That takes us to Baltimore, where the Ravens start off 4-5 and Flacco gets hurt. Since they don't have Lamar Jackson as their backup, they lose to the Bengals. Flacco comes back Week 15 versus the Bucs and Ravens, and they finish 9-7, and they're tied with the Browns for the division. The Bengals pick up an extra win over the Ravens, and they're now 7-9. As for the Jets, Jimmy G still gets hurt, and they go 3-13. They lose an extra game to the Colts. The Texans, with Sam Darnold, beat the Titans, but they lose to the Colts, Redskins, and Broncos. They finish 9-7. As for the Broncos, with quarterback Baker Mayfield, they pick up extra wins against the Texans and Chiefs, and they go 8-8. In the NFC, with a healthy Jared Goff and no Jimmy G, the 49ers knock off the Chargers, Cardinals, and Giants. They finish the year 7-9. As for the Redskins, with Kirk Cousins at quarterback, instead of the endless list of quarterbacks the Redskins had that year, they beat the Texans and Titans, and they go 9-7. As for the Eagles, they beat the Cowboys once, Titans, and Panthers, with Patrick Mahomes as their quarterback. This takes us to the 2018-2019 NFL playoffs. In the AFC, the Chargers are the 1 seed, the Colts are the 2 seed, Patriots are the 3 seed, Browns are the 4 seed, ending their streak of never making the playoffs, and the Chiefs are the 5 seed, and the Joe Flacco Red Ravens are the 6 seed. In the wild card, Brady and the Patriots beat Flacco and the Ravens. Keenum and the Browns fall to the Chiefs as Alex Smith wins ugly. Yup, since Case Keenum doesn't go to the Broncos, he signs with Cleveland in the offseason. And Carson Wentz still gets hurt just like he does in real life, as this is a back injury that he developed over time. It was pretty much unavoidable. In the divisional round, the Chargers beat the Chiefs, and the Colts barely beat the Patriots. Home field advantage matters big time, and luck and a great team are able to get revenge on the Pats for Deflategate. This takes us all the way to the conference championship, where the Colts shock the Chargers. The Chargers lose to the Pats in real life, and since the Colts beat the Pats, we believe that the Colts would be able to beat the Chargers. That and the fact that the Chargers don't really have much fans, and the Colts kind of invade LA in this scenario. And for the Super Bowl, well, we'll get to that in a little bit. But first, let's go over the NFC. The 1 seed in the NFC is Deshaun Watson and the Rams. Drew Brees and the Saints are the 2 seed. The 3 seed is the Patrick Mahomes-led Eagles. The 4 seed are the Bears. 5 seed is the Seahawks. And 6 seed is the Cowboys. In the wild card, Cody Parkey hits the field goal as the Eagles don't barely block it this time. The Bears knock off the Seahawks. Cowboys fall to Mahomes, and the Eagles win in Philly for the second NFC wildcard game. In the divisional round, Watson and the Rams are barely able to escape the Bears and the loaded defense and pass rush of Khalil Mack and Bradley Chubb. As for the Eagles, Mahomes hits Alshon in the chest and he catches it. The Eagles upset the Saints in New Orleans. In the conference championship, the first half is extremely slow before the Rams jump up to a 13-0 lead late. Philly is able to mount a comeback as Mahomes is always able to. They kicked a game-tying field goal at 27 and they send the game to overtime. They for some reason call tails, even though tails always fails, and they never see the ball in overtime as Watson uses his feet to rush for the game-winning touchdown. That takes us to Super Bowl 53 where the Rams play the Colts. The Rams cannot run the ball with arthritic Todd Gurley. Andrew Luck is able to cement his legacy in the greatest comeback season in NFL history. The Colts win a low-scoring game, but at least it's not as bad as the one in real life. In the 2019 NFL offseason, the Jaguars no longer sign Nick Foles as he's still in Minnesota. Instead, they trade for Alex Smith. The Browns still trade for Odell, and Andrew Luck still retires, but this time with a Super Bowl ring to his name. In the 2019 NFL Draft, the Jets now have the second pick.
With the second pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select Nick Bosa, defensive end, Ohio State.
Of course, this is after the Cardinals give up on Josh Rosen and select Kyler Murray at 1. After that, the Raiders are picking in 3, but Gruden still falls in love with his Clemson guy, and he takes Clelin Ferrell. Quinnen Williams then goes to the Bucs. The Giants still draft Danny Dimes at pick 5. As for Josh Allen, he stays in Jacksonville. The Lions take Devin White, and Hawkinson goes to the Packers at 10. The Niners pick Rashawn Gary. The Steelers trade up, but instead of trading up with Denver, they trade up with the Falcons, and they still get Devin Bush, and the Falcons still get Chris Lindstrom, just like in real life. This takes us all the way to the Ravens pick, where they select their hopefully franchise quarterback in Dwayne Haskins. That's right, Dwayne Haskins becomes a Baltimore Raven. This means that Marquise Brown falls to the Patriots. In the second round, the Patriots trade up and they select a quarterback. That's right, Drew Lock goes to the Patriots. Belichick is getting very impatient without Brady winning the Super Bowl the year prior, and he's getting ready to move on. This takes us to the 2019 NFL season, the final season in this experiment. The Jets, with Jimmy Garoppolo, Nick Bosa, and Le'Veon Bell, win games against the Bills, Bengals, and Dolphins. Their wins are also more impressive, and they finish 9-7. As for the Browns, they pick up extra wins against the Broncos, Seahawks, Bengals, and Ravens, and they go 10-6. On a side note, Myles Garrett never manslaughters Mason Rudolph on primetime television, as Myles Garrett is spending his time in Nashville, Tennessee. As for the Broncos with Baker Mayfield, they defeat the Raiders, Bears, and Colts. They finished at 10-6. As this is Lamar's first season, the Chiefs with the Lamar lose to the Lions but defeat the Packers, and they go 12-4, just like in real life. And the Texans lose to the Jaguars as Darnold has mono for this game. They also lose to the Chiefs and Titans. They finish the year 7-9, and the Titans win the AFC South at 10-6. This is important for the playoffs. The Ravens no longer have Lamar Jackson, and they have Dwayne Haskins. They lose to the Steelers in Week 5, but this is with Joe Flacco at starter. After dropping 3 straight with Joe Flacco as their starting quarterback, they decide to throw Dwayne Haskins into the mix. The Ravens lose to the Pats, Niners, Bills, and Browns, and they finish the year at 9-7. The Patriots, after beating the Ravens, go 13-3. As for the Bengals, they become the second team in history to go 0-16. The Browns didn't go 0-16 as they had wins in this timeline. The Bengals lost to the Jets and Browns to do so. This takes us to the AFC playoffs, where the Patriots are the 1 seed, Chiefs at 2, Titans at 3, 4 seed Browns, 5 seed Bills, and 6 seed New York Jets. In the wild card round, the Bills beat the Browns. This game really comes down to the Browns' poor offensive line and defense. As for the Jets, they lose to the Titans. Adam Gase struggles to coach in the playoffs, as Adam Gase is a terrible coach. When you combine that with the fact that Jimmy G also doesn't really have many weapons, and he doesn't have much of an O-line, the Jets really struggle, and they fall to the Titans. In the divisional round, Bills Mafia overcomes the odds and is able to defeat Brady and the Pats. Remember, the Patriots lost to the Dolphins in Foxborough in Week 17. Also, Lamar chokes under the pressure of his first playoff game, and the Chiefs lose to the Titans as the addition of Myles Garrett to that already dangerous defense proves to be a big help. The Titans upset the Chiefs in Kansas City and shock the world. This takes us to the conference championship, where we have the Bills versus the Titans in Nashville, Tennessee. Derrick Henry goes off and runs all over the Bills' defense. The Bills lose to the Titans, but the only real losers in this is the NFL. Come on, Buffalo versus Tennessee? I love the matchup, but Roger Goodell just does not. Before we get to the Super Bowl, let's talk a little bit about the NFC. In the NFC North, the Vikings pick up 2 wins against the Packers, and they lose to the Redskins and Lions. They win the division at 10-6. The Lions go 5-10-1 after beating Kansas City and Minnesota. The Bears lose to the Broncos, and they're now 7-9. As for the Packers, they go 10-6 after they lost to the Chiefs and the Vikings twice. In the NFC West, the Rams beat the Steelers and 49ers once. They finish the year at 11-5, and they become a wild card team. The 49ers lose to the Cardinals once, the Saints, but they win against the Ravens and lose to the Rams once, and still lose to the Seahawks the first time. They go 12-4. The Seahawks lose to the Browns, and they finish 10-6. As for the Cardinals, with an extra win against the Niners, they go 6-9-1. If you feel the need to pause the video at any time, there's a lot of changes, and if you have to rewind, I get that. I'm not offended. In the NFC East, the Redskins pick up wins late against the Giants and Vikings, and they're 5-11 with Kirk Cousins. The Giants go 30-13 after losing to the Redskins late in the year. As for the Eagles, they beat the Falcons and Dolphins, and they improve to 11-5 with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. The Cowboys still go 9-7. The last division in the NFC South, will start with the Falcons, who lose to the Eagles and 49ers, and lose 2 more games. The Saints win an extra game against the Niners and finish the year 14-2. They're the 1 seed in the playoffs. The Panthers and Bucks records go untouched. As for the playoff seeding, as previously mentioned, the Saints are the 1 seed, and now the 49ers are the 2 seed. The Eagles are the 3 seed, Vikings at 4, Rams are now at 5, and the Seahawks are at 6. In the wildcard, Watson and the Rams beat a mediocre Nick Foles-led Vikings team in Minnesota. A healthy Mahomes and the Eagles are barely able to knock off Russ and the Seahawks, so the Eagles and the Rams both win their wildcard games. In the divisional round, the Saints meet the Rams in the playoffs for the first time in this scenario. On a side note, the awfulness that is challenging pass interference never exists. Thank God. The Saints are able to defeat the Rams, as the Rams' run game just isn't what it used to be. The Eagles put up a decent fight in San Francisco, with Mahomes having his deep threat back in Deshaun Jackson, but they just can't stop the run game of the Niners. In the conference championship, the 49ers run all over the Saints with Raheem Mostert, and they advance to the Super Bowl. In the last and final Super Bowl, Tennessee Titans versus San Francisco 49ers. We made it. 10 total passes are thrown in this game. Everyone, for the most part, is bored out of their mind, except for that halftime show. That was wow. The game is close, both teams' run games are too strong, and Ryan Tannehill is set up for a 2-minute drill late in the 4th. With A.J. Brown burning Richard Sherman, the Titans are able to shock the world once again, and Ryan Tannehill wins the Super Bowl. Derrick Henry takes home the MVP. Maybe I'm just a crazy person writing this. After all, this is 1 in a million possibilities. Maybe nothing changes if Foles stays healthy. Maybe Chip Kelly is still coaching in the NFL. Perhaps Kyler Murray chooses to play baseball. Maybe Obama gets elected to a 3rd term. Who knows? Thank you guys for watching. Really hope you enjoyed. Please hit the subscribe button, leave a like. It helps out a ton. Share this with your friends. Please, we'd really appreciate it here. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.